When the 80s imagined the end of the world, it looked like this: scorched highways, punk gangs, and survivors tearing through the wasteland in spiked cars built from scrap. Inspired by Mad Max and powered by pure VHS adrenaline, a wave of post-apocalyptic movies stormed video store shelves. They were loud, dusty, and sometimes completely unhinged, but each one offered a glimpse into a future that was equal parts nightmare and fantasy. From desolate city ruins to endless desert roads, these were the worlds built from smoke, metal, and imagination. Tonight, we're heading deep into that wasteland, a world of rusted machines, outlaw heroes, and nuclear-fueled chaos that could only exist on VHS. Battletruck, 1982. After the oil wars have wiped out civilization, what's left of humanity roams the wasteland in convoys, scavenging for fuel, food, and freedom. Among them rides Colonel Straker, a ruthless warlord who rules the open road from his massive armored vehicle, known simply as the Battletruck. But when he crosses paths with a lone drifter named Hunter, the wasteland finally meets its match. Released in 1982 and filmed in New Zealand, Battletruck, also known as Warlords of the 21st Century, takes the post-apocalyptic road movie formula and gives it a unique down-under twist. Directed by Harley Cokless and produced by Roger Corman's New World Pictures, it's a slicker, more grounded entry in the Mad Max clone wave that swept the decade. Instead of chaos for chaos' sake, it builds a believable world where resources are scarce, technology's failing, and decency is a rare commodity. Michael Beck, fresh off The Warriors, plays Hunter, a quiet, determined hero with a moral code and a customized dirt bike that can outrun just about anything. Opposite him, James Wainwright brings menace and charisma to Colonel Straker, a villain who sees himself as the last authority in a lawless world. Their duel plays out across dusty valleys, makeshift outposts, and of course, the unstoppable metal fortress of the title. While many imitators leaned on camp, Battletruck plays it straight. Its tone is serious, its action practical, and its world feels oddly prophetic. There are echoes of westerns throughout. Lone gunslinger versus the tyrant, only this time the horses are motorcycles, and the frontier is radioactive. With solid performances, impressive stunts, and genuine atmosphere, Battletruck stands as one of the better-built worlds of the VHS Wasteland era. It's not as flashy as its Italian cousins, but it's tougher, more disciplined, and packed with the kind of grit that sticks with you long after the engines cool. 2019, after the fall of New York, 1983. In the grim future of 2019, the world has been reduced to ash after a global nuclear war. The once great cities are wastelands of twisted metal and radioactive dust. The survivors are split between two warring powers, the authoritarian Pan-American Confederacy and the ruthless Urax. In the middle of it all, a lone mercenary named Parsifal is pulled into a mission he can't refuse: venture into the ruins of New York City and rescue the last fertile woman on Earth. Humanity's future depends on it. Directed by Sergio Martino, one of Italy's great genre chameleons, this movie is part Mad Max, part Escape from New York, and completely its own brand of post-apocalyptic chaos. Released in 1983, it helped define the Italian wasteland wave, a gritty run of sci-fi action films shot on shoestring budgets but overflowing with imagination, smoke machines, and recycled car parts. The production leaned heavily on creativity over cash. Real junkyards doubled as city streets, welding sparks filled in for pyrotechnics, and cheap lighting made everything feel grimy and lived in. The film's score, a pulsing mix of synth and futuristic beats, adds to the feeling that this world really has ended, and the survivors are just trying to make sense of what's left. Michael Sopkiw, in one of his first major roles, brings a solid mix of swagger and weariness to Parsifal. He's not a superhero, just another survivor, doing what he can in a world that doesn't make sense anymore. Alongside him are familiar Eurocult faces like George Eastman and Anna Kanakis, each delivering that exaggerated end-of-the-world intensity that made these films unforgettable. After the Fall of New York might not have Hollywood polish, but it's packed with the kind of raw energy and visual invention that defined early 80s Italian sci-fi. It's trashy, creative, and completely sincere, a cinematic time capsule from an era where the future looked bleak, but the filmmaking never ran out of attitude. Exterminators of the Year 3000, 1983. The year is 3000, and Earth has been stripped bare by nuclear war. What's left of humanity survives in small, desperate colonies scattered across a desert planet that used to be home. Water is the new gold, and whoever controls it controls what's left of civilization. Enter a ragtag group of survivors who cross paths with a mysterious loner named Alien, a leather-clad anti-hero with a fast car, a bad attitude, and maybe the only shot at getting a clean water supply back to the settlement. Directed by Giuliano Carnemeo, this 1983 Italian-Spanish production wears its Mad Max influence proudly. But it's more than just a copy. It has that distinct European post-apocalyptic flavor. Dusty landscapes, improvised armor, and dialogue that feels dubbed straight out of the end times. The movie's look, filmed in the arid regions of Spain, gives it a real sense of scale despite its low budget, with endless stretches of desert highways and wrecked cars baking in the sun. Robert Iannucci stars as Alien, giving the film a solid, stoic lead, while Alicia Moro and Luciano Pigozzi round out the cast of survivors and scavengers. There's even a young boy named Tommy, who slowly starts to see Alien as the father figure he never had, adding a rare touch of emotion to all the explosions and car chases. What really sets Exterminators of the Year 3000 apart is how unapologetically scrappy it is. The action is wild, the editing frantic, and every vehicle looks like it's one bump away from falling apart. It's raw, fast, and somehow charming in how hard it tries to be epic. For fans of dusty wastelands, mutant gangs, and that unmistakable 80s Italian energy, this is a must-see slice of nuclear-age pulp. It's not polished, but it's full of heart, proof that even after the world ends, there's still room for a good car chase. Steel Dawn, 1987. After the Great Wars turned the world into desert, civilization has crumbled into dust and silence. Wandering through it all is Nomad, a swordsman, survivor, and drifter played by Patrick Swayze. He's haunted by the death of his mentor and searching for peace in a place where peace doesn't exist. When he comes across a struggling settlement under attack from a ruthless land baron, Nomad is pulled into one last fight to protect what little hope remains. Released in 1987, Steel Dawn is a curious hybrid, part Mad Max, part Shane, and all 80s fantasy wasteland. Directed by Lance Houle and shot in the parched landscapes of Namibia, it trades in car chases for sword fights, giving the apocalypse a more mystical, almost samurai flavor. The result is a moody, visually rich film that feels like the calm between explosions, where violence and humanity coexist in equal measure. Patrick Swayze brings real weight to the role, right at the height of his 80s fame, and the film's emotional undercurrent is strengthened by the presence of Lisa Niemi, Swayze's real-life wife, as the settlement leader he grows close to. The chemistry between them adds something rare to the genre, genuine warmth in a world gone cold. The villain, Jux, a greedy tyrant obsessed with controlling the land's last underground water source. His army of scavengers and mercenaries keeps the threat constant, and when the final showdown comes, it's a gritty, dust-filled sword duel that feels both Western and wuxia-inspired. While Steel Dawn wasn't a hit at release, it found a second life on VHS shelves and late-night cable. Its mix of stoic heroism, desolate beauty, and restrained action made it stand apart from the louder, more chaotic entries of the era. It's a quieter apocalypse. Not about who has the biggest gun or fastest car, but who still has the will to fight for decency when the world no longer deserves it. The New Barbarians, 1983. The year is 2019, and nuclear war has reduced the planet to scorched desert and broken metal. Civilization has collapsed, and what's left of humanity drives armored vehicles through the wasteland in search of fuel, food, and something resembling order. But for the ruthless gang known as the Templars, the only future they believe in is one without survivors. The New Barbarians, also released as Warriors of the Wasteland, is one of the crown jewels of Italy's 80s post-apocalyptic boom. Directed by Enzo G. Castellari, the man behind 1990, The Bronx Warriors, and The Last Shark, this 1983 blast of chrome and carnage stands out for just how far it pushes the genre's style. Think gleaming white jumpsuits, bubble domes, crossbows, and explosions so frequent you start to lose count. The story follows Scorpion, played by Giancarlo Prede, a weary wanderer who reluctantly steps up to protect a small band of survivors from the Templars. Along the way, he joins forces with Nadir, played by none other than Fred Williamson, whose bow-wielding swagger practically steals the movie. The dynamic between the two gives the film a buddy action rhythm that keeps it moving even when logic flies out the window. What really defines the new Barbarians is its look. Castellari shot the film in wide, open stretches of desert and filled the screen with customized cars built from scrap metal and imagination. The stunts are wild, the explosions real, and the soundtrack alternates between heroic synth and pulsing tension. Sure, it's rough around the edges, but that's part of its charm. It's stylish, strange, and sincere in its belief that a good explosion can solve any problem. Among 80s Wasteland movies, The New Barbarians isn't just another imitation. It's one of the purest distillations of the genre's energy, excess, and end-of-the-world optimism. Wheels of Fire, 1985. When the world ends, only the fastest survive. Wheels of Fire drops us into a sunburned wasteland ruled by roving gangs, slave traders, and gasoline-thirsty marauders who treat the open desert like their personal battlefield. In the middle of it all is Trace, a lone warrior armed with a supercharged car and a mission to rescue his kidnapped sister from a brutal warlord named Scourge. Directed by Cirio H. Santiago, the king of Filipino exploitation cinema, this 1985 gem is one of the wildest Mad Max imitators to roll off the assembly line. Santiago had a knack for doing a lot with very little, combining recycled car parts, real explosions, and dangerous stunts with a fearless cast willing to eat sand for the shot. The movie's action sequences are fast, loud, and completely unhinged, filled with high-speed collisions and gunfights in blazing heat. Gary Watkins leads the charge as Trace, playing the stoic desert hero with just enough grit to make you believe he's seen it all. His car, loaded with flamethrowers, spikes, and a serious grudge, feels like its own character, a rolling tank of vengeance. Linda Wiesmeyer, best known from Playboy and a few other cult titles of the era, adds a surprisingly grounded emotional layer amid the chaos. The film's setting, shot in the rocky, sun-scorched landscapes of the Philippines, makes the apocalypse feel both exotic and brutal. There's dust everywhere, the sound of engines never stops, and the sense of danger is constant. It's a movie that doesn't waste time on backstory or politics. It just throws you headfirst into the fight for survival. Wheels of Fire may not have the budget or polish of its Australian inspiration, but it makes up for it with relentless energy and pure VHS-era charm. It's loud, fast, and unapologetically explosive, a road warrior fever dream that deserves every bit of its cult reputation. DEFCON 4, 1985. When the bombs fall, 3 astronauts in orbit watch the end of civilization unfold from above. They survive the blast, but when their damaged space station is forced back to Earth, they discover that nuclear winter has turned the planet into a nightmare. What was once home is now ruled by scavengers, radiation, and a self-proclaimed warlord who treats survivors like property. Released in 1985, DEFCON 4 stands apart from most of the loud, armor-plated wasteland flicks of its era. Directed by Paul Donovan and filmed in Halifax, Nova Scotia, it feels colder, bleaker, and closer to reality. More threads than Mad Max. The movie starts as hard sci-fi and slowly mutates into survival horror, making it one of the moodiest entries in the VHS apocalypse lineup. Instead of fast cars and fireballs, the tension comes from confinement and decay. The heroes, played by Tim Choate, Kate Lynch, and Maury Chaykin, crash land near a fortified camp where civilization has broken into cultish pockets of power. Food is rationed, executions are public, and the air itself feels poisoned. The film's small-scale setting and grim tone make the apocalypse feel suffocating, like there's nowhere left to run. The production leans on fog, wreckage, and claustrophobic interiors instead of grand explosions, turning budget limits into style. The decaying tech, the scratchy radio signals, and the sense that the world truly ended years ago all combine to create something disturbingly believable. While it never reached the cult status of its Italian cousins, DEFCON 4 remains one of the more serious and unsettling takes on nuclear fallout cinema. It's not the end of the world with guitar riffs and car chases. It's the slow, quiet realization that the world is gone, and the survivors are just pretending otherwise. Equalizer 2000, 1987? In the frozen wastelands of Alaska, the apocalypse has come and gone, but humanity's obsession with weapons still burns strong. The world is now ruled by the ownership, a fascist military regime that hoards all remaining resources. When a soldier named Slade turns against them, he becomes a hunted man. And his only ally is a one-of-a-kind weapon known as the Equalizer 2000, a massive, custom-built supergun capable of leveling armies. Directed by Cirio H. Santiago, Equalizer 2000 is a prime slice of late 80s Filipino post-apocalyptic action. Santiago, who practically built an empire out of low-budget Wasteland movies, delivers this one like a comic book come to life, full of explosions, dust, and improvised armor that looks one good gust of wind away from falling apart. It's part Mad Max, part Rambo, and all VHS chaos. The film stars Richard Norton, the Australian martial artist who later became a staple of Hong Kong action cinema. Here he plays Slade with the perfect mix of stoicism and fury, taking on a corrupt army led by none other than Corinne Wall and the ever-reliable Robert Patrick, years before Terminator 2 made him famous. What makes Equalizer 2000 stand out is its sheer love of firepower. The titular gun is a Frankenstein's monster of barrels, scopes, and shoulder mounts, and it becomes a character in its own right. Every few minutes, something explodes, someone yells, and the landscape disappears in a wall of smoke. Despite its low budget and rough edges, there is a scrappy energy that keeps it entertaining from start to finish. Santiago's direction is tight, the pacing relentless, and the vibe pure 80s pulp, complete with synth stingers and echoing dialogue that sounds like it was recorded in a cave. Equalizer 2000 is what happens when you give a director a camera, a few jeeps, and a lot of dynamite. It's loud, dusty, and gloriously excessive, the kind of movie that might leave your ears ringing, but your inner action fan grinning. The Salute of the Jugger, 1989. In the shattered world of the future, civilization survives in pockets. Crumbling cities and scattered underground communities clinging to the last scraps of order. Out in the wastelands, the only thing that passes for entertainment is the game, a brutal sport where two teams battle with chains, clubs, and spikes over a dog skull. For the players, known as Juggers, glory and survival are one and the same. The Salute of the Jugger, released in the US as The Blood of Heroes, came out in 1989 from writer-director David Webb Peoples, who co-wrote Blade Runner and Unforgiven. That pedigree shows in the film's tone. This isn't just a brawl movie, it's a story about class, ambition, and the scraps of humanity that survive long after civilization ends. Rutger Hauer stars as Sallow, a fallen jugger with a haunted past, who leads a team of outsiders across the wasteland, taking on rival teams in hopes of reaching the underground city where the elites live, and where the game is played for real prestige. Alongside him is Joan Chen as Kidda, a young fighter who dreams of rising out of the dirt and into the big leagues, no matter the cost. The world here feels completely lived in, grimy, dusty, and believable. Instead of flashy vehicles or laser weapons, everything's handmade, worn down, and covered in rust. Peoples builds his apocalypse from character and culture, not just explosions. The matches themselves are brutal and mesmerizing, a perfect metaphor for survival in a world that's forgotten compassion. While it never found mainstream success, The Salute of the Jugger became a cult favorite among fans of grounded, gritty science fiction. It's less about spectacle and more about endurance, people fighting not for glory, but for the simple right to keep playing, to keep existing. It's one of the most underrated post-apocalyptic films of the VHS era, poetic, violent, and strangely hopeful. A reminder that even at the end of the world, someone's still keeping score. Cyborg, 1989. In the rusted ruins of America's future, society has collapsed under the weight of famine, disease, and lawlessness. The last hope for rebuilding civilization lies in a cybernetic woman carrying the data that could restore the world. But when she's captured by a gang of murderous raiders led by the sadistic Fender Tremolo, one man steps forward to bring her back. Gibson Rickenbacker, a lone drifter armed with nothing but his sword, scars, and an unshakable sense of vengeance. Cyborg came out in 1989 and marked one of Jean-Claude Van Damme's earliest starring roles, shot fast, cheap, and dirty by Cannon Films. It was originally meant to be a sequel to Masters of the Universe, but when that fell apart, director Albert Pyun reworked the leftover sets and costumes into something new. The result is one of the grittiest, most visually distinct post-apocalyptic movies of the VHS era. The world of Cyborg is pure rust and ruin, half urban nightmare, half medieval wasteland. The cinematography leans into smoke, steel, and grime, while Pyun's direction gives every frame an almost comic book intensity. Van Damme plays it mostly silent, relying on physical presence and explosive fight choreography to tell the story. Opposite him, Vincent Clin's Fender delivers one of the most memorable villain performances of the decade, half preacher, half monster, with a voice like gravel and eyes that never blink. While critics tore it apart on release, Cyborg found new life in the rental aisles. It's the perfect kind of movie to stumble on at 2 a.m., a moody, violent, synth-driven vision of the future where hope is mechanical and heroes bleed just like everyone else. It's rough, it's weird, and it's unforgettable. Exactly what we love from the Wasteland days of late 80s sci-fi. From mutant gangs and desert duels to cyborgs and superguns, the 80s Wasteland movies gave us more chaos than the world could ever actually handle. Some were ridiculous, some were visionary, but all of them helped shape a genre that's still alive decades later. Which one of these Wasteland classics is your favorite? Or which forgotten gem did we miss? Drop it in the comments. We always love seeing what tapes still stick with people. And if you want to support the channel and unlock early access to upcoming videos, exclusive polls, and a few other extras, consider joining the Eject Media membership. It really helps keep this archive alive. Hit like, subscribe, and remember, always be kind and rewind, because every movie is someone's favorite.